All right, problem says, let's say that the costs for this manufacturer are going to be 14n plus 5,000. And when it comes to the revenue, they've got a function with two n's in it. That's going to be a parabola when we graph it. Okay. And so the reason why this kind of thing would happen, think about like why that formula would be the way it is. If you have a demand curve involving the price and the number of units, we talked before about how you could create something like that, right? You could sell a certain number of units at one price and then sell another number of units at a different price. And if you were to make a regression out of that data, then what you could get is a line that's sloped. Okay? And now think about what kind of formula that would have. It would be a formula P in terms of n. And what would it be? Let's just say, hypothetically, that it was 50 minus 0.04 times n. So the idea being, if you want to sell more items, let's say, more n, then you have to lower the price. That's the concept here. But now imagine that you want to find what is the revenue in terms of n based on that formula, right? So the way we find the revenue is we multiply the number of items that you're going to sell times the price of those items. That's always a formula for revenue. Okay, so what you do is in order to find that revenue, you multiply n times your price formula from the regression. And that's how they might have arrived at the formula that they did arrive at. Okay, that's how they got that revenue formula. All right, so what's it going to make when we graph it? A parabola. Let's go to Desmos and graph it. Our costs were simply 14n plus 5,000. Okay, there's our cost function. Now let's type in the revenue function. 50 minus 0.04 times n, but then times n again. There we go. So our revenue is a parabola. What does this mean in terms of the business? It means that if they don't make any items, they won't make any revenue. They'll have no money coming in. If they are to make too many items, then people won't buy them. If they lower the price to 0, that's like the most that they can possibly sell. But there is some ideal number of items to make what's called the maximum revenue. Okay, and some problems might ask you about that. They might say, okay, what's the right amount of units to produce if we want to maximize our revenue? According to the Desmos results, is 625 is the right number to make to maximize the revenue. That's the money coming into the business. However, that's not the most interesting question of all to the business. What the business really wants to know is how do they maximize their profit? They want to create a profit function. And that's what this question A says, is use a formula to find their profit function. So what we want to do is we want to subtract P of n will always equal revenue minus costs. So that little blue here actually represents their profit. That's what the company's most interested in maximizing. As you can see, the place where they maximize their profit is not the same as the place where they maximize their revenue. And so this is the one they're most interested in. Apparently, it's at 450 units. And we can find out like the best price for them to set in order to make that happen. Okay, so their profit function to answer this question A will be a subtraction of R minus C. And so the profit function, therefore, is going to be 50 minus 0.04 n times n minus parentheses 14n plus 5,000. Don't forget the parentheses around your cost function, okay? So if we type that into Desmos, of course, we'll get the same curve as the blue there. So there you go. You see the green is, that's the profit function there. Okay, so now how do we find the maximum? We can just click on it in Desmos. That's the easiest way. We're going to eventually show how to do this algebraically to find that maximum value. What is the ideal number of widgets to sell in order to maximize? First, I'll do revenue, because I want to go over each type of problem that might be asked. Okay, so what is the ideal number of widgets to sell in order to maximize revenue? So just go back to your graph, click on your revenue function, and get that from the horizontal value there, 625. Okay, another question you might be asked. What is the ideal number of widgets to sell in order to maximize profit? So you go back to your graph. Now click on the blue. Okay, so our ideal number would be 450. But now, how does the business actually control how many widgets get sold? It's not just based on how many they make. That's not necessarily the thing that determines it. It's the price that they set. Okay, they're trying to read the market. They're trying to determine, like, what's our ideal price to set. So what is the ideal price to set in order to maximize profit? You just have to know, first of all, determine the price function here. Okay, so what is the price function? The price function is this part. Okay, so 50 minus 0.04n. That's this. Little p is 50 minus 0.04n. Okay, and then what would be the price for 450 widgets? Just plug in your 450. And let's see what it is. $32 per widget.